Hi, welcome back to MDriven Turnkey. Boards like Trello, where you can move around cards in lists, are really popular, and it would be neat if we could have the same type of functionality on our own information that we own ourselves. So we would need a model, a small model with a board class and a board list and board cards in each list. And the board card should have a name and a text. And that's really the minimal model that I can think of to realize a Trello-like board. So we do a small view model to fold this information. We have the name of the board and the board lists, and that follows the board lists and shows the name, and the board cards that has the name and the texts of each card. So that would be a naive implementation, just taking what MDriven Turnkey gives you. But we are going to do view overrides to make it look more like a board, like this board. So this is what we're going to end up with, just going to take us there. So I do a view override by doing a board demo HTML file and replacing the standard implementation. But since I've already done this, I'm gonna comment some things out to make a point. So now I removed the CSS information that was in the file, and you can see it's just a table with some columns. I'm gonna simplify it even more. If I comment out these things here, it will be apparent that I reload the page. Now I just see 3 cells in a table with the column 1, column 2 and column 3. And if I were to bring up the debugger and look at the information that I have in the board that I work on, the board object, I can see there's only one board. I click up the board and I get a auto form for that. There's actually 3 columns, column 1, 2 and 3, or board lists actually. So just gonna change the text on this one, save it, and head back to MDriven Turnkey to see if it updates. Yes, this one updates. So, and of course another test would be to add a new list to our board like this, and saving that and waiting for Turnkey to pick that update up like this. So if we study the code here, we see that there's a table and 1 row, and we have an angular repeat that iterates over the board lists and take the board list name. So it's a no-brainer. This will happen automatically with our override. Actually, we can see all the things that we have in our view model available for us to bind with the Angular just by going to the development side, choosing our view model. We have the name on the root and the board lists, and that's the things that we bind towards. We can also see all the information live by appending debug to the URL that we're using, and now we see a JSON representation of all the information. So what we will find somewhere here are the board lists, and here we see what we updated. Cool1 works, and up here we have the name for the board, which we actually doesn't show anywhere, but anyway. So I'm gonna uncomment this second row of the table, and wait a bit with this. I compile my small project that copies the files out to my local installation of MDriven Turnkey. That's the way I choose to work. And now I see that I have a row where I want to place my cards. So for each board list I iterate over board cards, and I pick the card name and text and add them. So as I can see here in the data, there are board cards, some board cards for me to test with. I've added these in the debugger earlier on. So I build and refresh the page, and now the table contains some more information, and these are my cards. Yep. So far away from Trello yet, but we're getting there. So this is all the markup and binding that was used to actually get the data we wanted on screen. So let's put some of the styling information back, the board list, and gonna remove some of these and just have adding piece by piece so we see what happens. Gonna bring up a notepad to keep those. Compile, build, succeed, add back, refresh. Okay, so the cards are moved up to the top where I want them. So I'm gonna put back the styling of the text and name. Compile and add back and refresh. Something like that. Right. I'm gonna let's put back the card style as well. It's vertical aligned, it's medium purple, it has rounded edges, etc. Like this. Now we clearly see each card. Good. And some of the styles we're gonna come back to a bit later. So we have gotten a bit, but what we want to do is to be able to drag these cards between the lists just like we do here, and to be able to do that we need to add behavior to the card, and in Angular that is really easy to do with the what do you call them? I need to check. God, I forgot what they call them. No, directives. Yeah. So we need to we create our directives with a script file, and the script file needs to be loaded early on in the application. So there's a way where you could put style scripts, directive scripts into the application loading cycle early on. So I will write about this, so you don't need to check it in this video. And this installs the directive in the Angular module streaming app controller, which is our turnkey controller. And the directive is it's just a way to for Angular to show us each item, to add behavior or anything really to where we set the directive. So ph card, this is in camel case, but in HTML it must be in what they call kebab case. So here it's kebab case, small letters with the dashes, and here it's camel case. So you just need to remember that so you don't get tripped. I did. A directive has a link function, which is called when the HTML element is created, and we get access to the scope and the element, and that's what we need to be able to associate these two. So we have the scope and scope parent. Let's see what I mean by that, and the board list. So we are in scope card, and the parent will be on this level, and there we will have the board list. So we can access information back and forth this way. And we implement the mouse down event, and this is just roundabout way to handle one click or double click. If it's one click, we hook up the mouse move and mouse up, and we also set the class on the element rotate while move. So that's the important one. The mouse move just follows along and changes the top and left of the card as we move it. And the mouse up, here we really do the magic with the things that we're gonna get back to look at in a while. So are we ready to go? We have the directive, and now we can drag the card and it will move along like this. Okay, but it doesn't rotate the way that the Trello cards does. So let's put back that style, rotate while move, so it will kneel a bit when we drag it. Let's try that. That's the whole point with Trello, I think, maybe. Yay. But comparing with Trello, I can see it kneels the wrong way and also too much. Well, that would be easily fixed. Let's say it's 7 positive degrees instead of 10 negatives. Like that. And refresh. Yay, that's more like it. Alright. So now we have done a lot, but we still need to do the most important thing, the actual move of a card. What does it mean to move a card? What should happen when a card is released on a new list? How do we know what list it is, etc.? It all comes down to the mouse up. So I set the breakpoint in Chrome on the mouse up, and we get information about which element we dragged. So that's our card, and we can look up the card ID from the scope. Great, so we have that, and we can also find the object for the board and the div that makes up the board, and we can by that way use jQuery to find all the lists in the board, the divs that makes up the list, and we can get the bounding rectangle for each one and check if our drop point is inside one of them. And if it is, we could know which object we have for the list, and then we can actually perform the move operation. So, and that's really all we need to perform the move operation. We're gonna study what happens in more detail. We have a move action on our view model, and the move action really takes a card's board lists property and assigns another board list. So we change the model just by executing this action. And the move action target card and the list that we move to are actually set here in the mouse up. Move action target list and move action target card. So we assign two view model attributes, and then we call execute with a reference to our move action. So everything goes back to the server that does the work, and the data change accordingly and turns back as an update to the screen. As you can see, it's fairly little code that's needed to do all this logic that actually moves our cards, associates them with new lists, just like that. And as you can see, the save buttons and cancel buttons and undo and everything lights up just as it should. So that's a lot like Trello does. But let's look at the double click now. What happens then? Well, we set the card to current, so and then we find the object for the board, and we execute another action that I have chosen to call edit current card action. So the edit current card action actually is backed by this action object, which is defined in the action editor as edit card, as bringing up view model edit card as a model view. So what should happen then is when I double click here, a model view should come up, and I have access to edit the text and the name. So I can edit here and save and OK it, and the text has been updated. So it's actually very little that happens on the client. Most of the things happen on the server, but that's what we want, because we really don't want to spend too much time in JavaScript. Do as little as possible, because we just have better control over everything on the server. So if you like this video and if you want to see more like this, please subscribe to the Capable Object channel, and also a thumbs up if possible, and I'll get back to you soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.